Rumors have been mounting that we're going to be getting a Nintendo Direct this month in February, despite the fact that we already know we're going to be getting one in April. And honestly, it would actually make a lot of sense to have one right now. While Nintendo has announced and even recently reconfirmed that we're going to be getting a Direct on April 2nd, we also know that Direct is going to be entirely focused on the Switch 2. And while that is very exciting and we've all been waiting to learn more about this next system, we still have a regular Switch that needs to be supported. The last traditional Direct we got was in June of last year. After that, in August, we also got a partner showcase, but those really only filled out the back half of last year and a little bit of this year. We know about some games coming out in February and March, but there are a whole lot more titles that we know are coming to Switch, but don't have locked-in release dates yet that could end up being March, April, May, or June releases, which a February Direct would help fill out. Not to mention, again, the next Direct is going to be focused on the Switch 2, so one last Direct that's really focused entirely on the current Switch, not mixing up generations at all, and is just really showing us what the kind of last final push for the system is going to be, at least in terms of being the sole Nintendo system, just makes a lot of sense. So with that in mind, whether or not this ends up being a real thing, I wanted to touch on a bunch of games that, we know are happening, they're being worked on, that could end up making an appearance at a Direct this month. There is also always the chance we could get some surprise reveals. There's a few things that I would always cross my fingers to hope and see, but especially with the Switch 2 showcase around the corner, I'm not expecting too much in that department. At most, maybe, and this is honestly, I think, pretty out there still, maybe a surprise announcement of a Fire Emblem game, just because supposedly there's been one that's been in works for a while that was supposed to come out earlier and didn't for whatever reason. So maybe that's something that's designed for the current Switch still, and they just sneak that in the last second. But more likely, I think it's going to be focused a lot more on games we already know about, which when it comes to the current Switch, there's basically 3 big titles left. We've got Xenoblade Chronicles X, which does have a locked-in release date for March of this year. And then the other ones that are kind of floating around a little bit still are Metroid Prime 4 Beyond and Pokemon Legends ZA. Now, there's been some speculation I've seen around of whether or not these games could end up being Switch 2 titles, not necessarily exclusive, and in fact, Nintendo recently even confirmed that yes, those games are planned to happen on the current regular Switch, but there is always the chance they could be cross-gen, which either way, I still think the marketing focus is going to be on them as Switch 1 titles, and so absolutely are games that could make an appearance where we not only get to see a bit more gameplay, but also get locked-in release dates. Of the two, Pokemon Legends is the only one that I think maybe could end up sitting out or just has a smaller role to play, only because Pokemon Day is going to be February 27th of this year. We are very likely going to get a Pokemon Presents as part of that. And so, Nintendo could give a nod towards it as part of a Direct that happens earlier, but I would suspect that a Pokemon-focused presentation is more likely the place where we'll see more extensive gameplay and a release date. Could be wrong, they could use that to focus more on a lot of other side services, and Legends is a focus of the Nintendo Direct. We just don't know yet. Now, getting into third-party games, there were a whole lot more titles that were announced either at this past partner showcase or back at the June Direct, or maybe were announced elsewhere, but what we know are coming to Nintendo Switch that absolutely could make an appearance at a Direct this month in order to lock in release dates if they're coming out in the first half of the year. For instance, one of the biggest ones that I would actually really hope to see at this Direct would be Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD 2D. Late last year, we got the release of Dragon Quest 3 HD 2D, which was absolutely fantastic. I did get the chance to play through that game last year, and I absolutely loved it. And as part of fully revealing that game at a Direct, we got the additional reveal that 1 and 2 were being remade as well, and we haven't gotten an update since then. We know this follow-up remake was slated for sometime this year, but we didn't even get like a specific season or anything, so that could be something farther off, but it feels like something that actually could end up being a lot sooner, and I would not be surprised to see that be something that releases sometime in Q2. So with these remakes getting really initially announced and focused on at a Direct, would not be surprised to have them show up again in order to reconfirm that 1 and 2, show us some more actual gameplay of those ones, and give us a release date. Another game that I think could make an appearance is Ninja Gaiden Ragebound. Now, this is a game that was revealed at the Game Awards last year, and if there is one thing that is very clear, it's that Koei Tecmo is going all out on Ninja Gaiden in 2025. They had an appearance at the recent Xbox Developer Direct where they shadow dropped a remaster of Ninja Gaiden 2. They announced a brand new Ninja Gaiden 4 happening this year as well, coming out in the fall. And so I would not be surprised to have that momentum keep going by showing off Ragebound a lot more in depth as part of a Nintendo Direct and using that as the place to position and announce an actual release date for it. After all, while I think Koei Tecmo has really liked associating the 3D Ninja Gaiden games with Xbox, Ragebound in particular being a more retro-styled 2D game, I think makes a lot of sense to show off and partner alongside with Nintendo. Now, to be fair, the initial reveal for this game is still pretty recent. It was just back in December, and so depending on when it's releasing, it's entirely likely that we're not going to see it quite this soon again. If it ends up being something planned for, the last quarter of the year, probably not going to make an appearance at a Direct, but if it is something that's happening maybe in quarter 2 or even in quarter 3, I think there's a very good chance it could show up in a February Direct, and it would just make a lot of sense. Another game that I'm very curious about and would need to show up at a Direct because, as far as we know right now, it is a Switch exclusive, is the 100-line Last Defense Academy. This is one of those games where I think when it was revealed, some people probably saw the trailer and went, oh yeah, that looks neat, and other people, seeing who's actually developing it, got very excited at what it could shape up to be. This is a tactical role-playing game that has visual novel elements blended in, at least as far as we can tell from what bits of gameplay we've seen, and is being led by a pair of fantastic directors who are Kazutaka Kodaka and Kotaro Uchikoshi. Kodaka is probably best known for the Danganronpa games, whereas Uchikoshi is more recently known for The Somnium Files, and before that, the Zero Escape games, including 999 and Virtue's Last Reward, which are some of the best visual novels out there that incorporate some more gameplay style elements. So with these two working together with their writing credits and entering a different genre by making a tactical role-playing game, which is a personal favorite genre of mine, is something that I absolutely need to learn more about as soon as possible. Now, to be fair, this one does already have a release date reveal. Xseed themselves did it back at the start of this year, saying it's going to be releasing on April 24th, but I do think a Direct announcement like that doesn't get quite as much traction as another appearance at a Nintendo Direct, so hopefully we get to see some bigger bits of gameplay and it makes another appearance leading into that release date. Speaking of third-party games that are exclusive to Switch, Professor Layton and the New World of Steam. Professor Layton is a franchise that has been on a lot of Nintendo platforms. It has been primarily focused on their handhelds, really thrived a lot on the DS and 3DS, and we haven't had a new entry in quite some time. There was a release that was in 2017 that felt a little bit more like a side game because it did feature a different main character, and the last time we saw Layton himself as the protagonist was a crossover game with Phoenix Wright that came out back in 2014. So it's been over a decade since we've gotten a brand new game starring him. Now we know this next one is going to be due out sometime this year. This was initially revealed at Nintendo Direct back in 2023, so hopefully sooner than later, but again, it does sound like it is at least planned for this year. Now, there's one dev I would love to see at a Direct soon, but I don't know for sure if it would be one that would happen this month, is Yacht Club Games. There are 2 titles they have in development coming out in the near future that I just need to see some more stuff on. Those are specifically Shovel of Hope DX and Mina the Hollower. Shovel of Hope is a new version of Shovel Knight, and it's basically a further remastered version of the game, adding a whole bunch more content focused on just the Shovel Knight specific campaign. It's not doing stuff with Plague Knight or the others. You are specifically playing that version of the game, but with all kinds of new goodies, different playable characters, bunch of stuff. And then Mina the Hollower, we know, is their next full-length game. It was kickstarted a few years back, and there hasn't been a ton of updates. We've just seen a little bit of it here and there, and I am dying to get my hands on this game. I believe 2025 is the planned release date for this. There has not been a hard update in a little while for when it is coming out, but seeing this Link's Awakening style crossover with some Castlevania and even Bloodborne style vibes, it is such a great looking game. In fact, actually back when it was first announced, I did get a chance to play a small teaser demo of it and just get an idea of what it was going to be like, and it was utterly fantastic. I still boot it up and play every now and then. I'm just so excited for the potential this game has, and it's probably going to be the next indie game that I just yell about constantly throughout the year until we actually get our hands on it, because I really think it could shape up to be something very special. Hopping over to another indie studio that I absolutely love is Sabotage Studio. They released Sea of Stars back in late 2023, and we did get a free update for that game in 2024 called Dawn of the Equinox, and we know we're going to be getting a free DLC chapter called Throws of the Watchmaker sometime this year in 2025, but we have not gotten an actual locked-in release date for this just yet. Now, it has made an appearance at a couple directs already. Sea of Stars is definitely a title that I think has reoccurred at quite a few of them, and so I would not be surprised to see a locked-in release date trailer for that be tied into a direct as well. On the flip side, we have seen Sea of Stars a lot at past directs over the years, and so even with how much we've already seen of the DLC, it's possible that they're not going to do a release date announcement announcement as part of Nintendo and instead just do that on their own time. But again, directs are a great place to make big announcements, and that would be a neat one to see. Now there's two more games I want to touch on real quick that are honestly ones that I'm not personally excited for, but I think they are games that make a lot of sense to show up at a Direct. I know a lot of people are looking forward to them. Fantasy Life I, this is a game that was originally supposed to release in October of last year, and then it got last second delayed into this year. And so having that updated and given a new up-to-date locked-in release date would be great. And then also this year, we're supposed to be getting a brand new Rune Factory, one that is not actually a numbered release. It looks like it might be something more along the lines of a side title where it's also a slightly different genre. It might be a bit more action focused than the mainline ones, which is Rune Factory Guardians of Azuma. There are a few other games that I think could maybe make a very brief appearance, but they're titles that we already know release dates of, we've already seen a healthy amount of. They just have the right name or association where I think just a quick touch on during a Direct could make sense. We have the Suikoden 1 and 2 remaster happening in March. There's the remaster collection of Lunar. We recently got more information on Capcom Fighting Collection 2, and a lot of those have been showing up at Nintendo Directs. So I think a lot of those could maybe have a quick check-in, but we already know release dates for all of them, so I don't think they would necessarily be a heavy focus of the show. So those are just some thoughts about a potential February Direct and what I think we could see there. Again, this is currently, as of right now, while I'm recording, just a rumored thing, but I think it makes a lot of sense to get one more Direct in before the Switch 2 focused one in April. There's just a lot that could still be announced and talked about for the current Switch that shouldn't have to wait for a presentation that likely is going to be focused entirely on just what's coming to the new one. So let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. Are there any games that you would love to see updates on as part of February Direct? Are there any surprise reveals you would hope to see? I'm sure there's a few people that are hoping and thinking this is going to finally be the time that we get Silksong. Who knows? That's just going to happen when it happens. But as always, if you enjoyed this video, hit the thumbs up button to let me know, subscribe if you haven't yet, and I'll see you all later.